have to get your hands dirty. You can't do a startup with a corporate mindset.
When people tell me that I can't do something, I will do whatever it takes to prove them wrong.
लाइफ में ना दो तरह से कॉम्पनसेट होते हो आप. वन इज योर अर्निंग एंड वन इज योर लर्निंग.
Fundamental each has always been khud karo.
I'm your host, Akshay Datt, and you're listening to Spotlight, a podcast in which I speak to disruptive startup founders.
Hi, I'm Viram. I am the CEO and co-founder at Vested Finance.
Are you an Apple fanboy or fangirl? Or maybe you're deeply passionate about Tesla? Have you ever wished that you could invest in these earth changing companies? Being in India, it's not easy for a common person to invest in such iconic brands that are listed in the US. And this is exactly the problem that Viram Shah of Vested is attempting to solve. Vested allows Indians to easily invest in the companies that are listed in the US like Apple, Tesla, Google, Facebook, etc., and take part in the amazing Silicon Valley lead growth story. Here's Viram telling Akshay Datt about building Vested.
So, Viram, what's home for you? Like, where did you grow up?
I have always been a Mumbai boy, born and brought up and grew up here in Mumbai.
Which part of Mumbai? Like, Mumbai also has subcultures within it, na?
Yeah. I've kind of lived in multiple parts, primarily been the suburb side of things, if you want to differentiate between townies and suburbians in Mumbai, which is very much a lot of people do that. But I grew up in Andheri and currently live in Juhu.
What's your family background? Like, what was your dad doing, or what does he do? And
Yeah, so I come from a very entrepreneurial family actually, as a majority of sort of folks coming from the Gujarati community, right? Some or the other business somebody's running. So for our family also, all around me actually, people are doing different kinds of businesses. It might not be like the largest businesses, right? Even small businesses or medium businesses. That's what everyone's doing. In our family particularly, my father runs a couple of businesses. One is in the, I don't know if you would be familiar with this industry, but it's the ship recycling or ship breaking is what it's called. It's based out of Gujarat, and yeah, so that's where all of the ships that are decommissioned come to be broken down, and the material within them is recycled. So it's actually quite an interesting business. I grew up visiting those yards, seeing those massive machines, and seeing kind of how value was being generated by breaking something down. So it was very interesting for me. Always that in fact that moment, or the first time that I went to that yard and saw how such a magnificent kind of machine was being broken down, and that's the impact business can have. That's when I realized that the entrepreneurship or starting something and creating value out of nothing is what I want to do in life.
how old were you when that realization hit you?
I was quite young. I don't remember. I think I was in the seventh or eighth grade, so seventh, eighth standard. So yeah, must be 10, 11 or something like that. And yeah, always used to. I mean, so that's in Gujarat, but otherwise in Bombay also we have some operations. So always used to kind of shadow my father going to office and seeing what they do. They're also in the real estate space here, so also used to see what they do there. And yeah, it's a very kind of business centric family, where a lot of discussions also around entrepreneurship, kind of business, what is going on, and so that keeps you thinking about it from a young age.
So you were more enamored by the Silicon Valley path of entrepreneurship and the Gujarati path.
So, sort of. So, in fact, actually, the not the Silicon Valley. I think just the space. I in fact was always kind of skeptical of the model that Silicon Valley or just generally some startups implement, right? Which is just raise money and play a valuation game. For me, the ideas of running business have always been Gujarati, which is typically there is a saying that you have to earn like 2% a month, right? So that's the interest that you have to earn on your business. How do you get something like that going? So those values of being kind of making sure that costs are in control, making sure that you're building a sustainable business. It's not just a black hole which is sucking money. So that's always been there. But the space in which the kind of people you work with. I think that was what drew me to technology, to innovation, where some of the brightest minds are working today.
So, like you did your undergrad, which was like a engineering course. Then what next? Like by the time you finished it, did you have clarity on what you want to do, or?
Yeah, so I did engineering in Mumbai itself, and one of the reasons why I did it was to actually spend time in the family business so that I could get clarity whether this is a long-term path I want to take or not. Companies that are in the technology, media, telecom space and help them, these are larger companies, help them with either their IPOs or pitch them certain M&As, and some might end up happening, or help them with some debt raising. So I was doing that in with clients across Asia.
If you like to hear stories of founders, then we have tons of great stories from entrepreneurs who have built billion-dollar businesses. Just search for the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming app like Spotify, Ghana, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to the show.
So it gave you like a pretty good bird's eye view of the tech startup ecosystem in Asia.
More than tech startup, just one was finance. Actually, that was the foundation of finance. How do you think about companies from a financial perspective? How do you value companies? And then gave me a perspective of not so much startups but different business models at tech companies. So because these was we worked with companies that were larger scale, right? So how are the different business models? Some companies making money off of subscription at scale, some of them making money off of transactions. How do you value these companies? Most often these companies don't have any comparables. So how do you value them? What are the metrics you use? So I think that's the business model and the finance side of things is what I learned during that. And yeah, I mean there's kind of a link to why Vested worked out, but that's what I learned at JP Morgan.
So why did you leave JP Morgan? Like you spent almost 3 years there. Like what was the thinking towards the end?
Yeah, so anybody who's worked in investment banking will know how the work is and how tedious and stressful the environment tends to be. It was very, very hectic, long hours. I mean, it is a part of investment banking, and as an analyst, you have to do a lot of different juggling, working on different things, learning different things. So I mean, I was pretty exhausted by then, and I wanted to kind of see what's next in store for me. And the other path was how do I kind of broaden my horizon? Can I go abroad, study more, see how kind of the different things in the world are working, and can I get into a good school to be able to do that? And so the first path, while I tried it, didn't work out. Happened that the second path worked out, and I went for my MBA then to the US.
Was like with the objective that you'll work over there also, or like it was just for like getting some space to figure out?
Tougher to a certain extent, because so I went to Haas at Berkeley, and in our particular batch, and typically all the batches before that, not a lot of Indian students that ended up going there, or I don't know, for some reason there were just not a lot of Indian students that ended up making the batch. So we used to early on also there were just 3-4 in a batch, and in mine also there were just 3. So you always, if you tend to go to a new place, you look for people where you can find familiarity with, right? And for me, that didn't really exist, and so you were thrown into this completely new ocean where you have to find out how to swim with people that are from a bunch of different cultures. And I think that was the thing that took adjusting to kind of get out there and put yourself out there with sort of multiple times that you fail, because there are different cultural nuances that you might not know. There's different kind of ways in which you need to interact with people, how different backgrounds that they've come from. So that took quite a bit of time for me to get adjusted to. But then over time, I mean, it also is a positive, because naturally, because you're outside your comfort zone, you feel lost. But then once you get adjusted to it, you can then basically get used to any kind of different culture, right? Wherever you're thrown in the world, you can take care of yourself. And I think that's something that came out of it. But I had to be kind of broken down into pieces and reform myself before I could get there.
Okay. So I think, you were in the middle of your MBA only when you started Vested. How did that come about?
One of the great things about Berkeley, and that's why I really wanted to go there, is that you're very much in the valley, right? You're in the midst of kind of technology innovations happening all around you. There are experiments being run on AI. There are, food delivery bots on campus. There is scooters that are roaming around, electric scooters. A bunch of people trying different ideas. So one thing is the entrepreneurship ecosystem is very vibrant. Now you combine that with me, who always wanted to do something in entrepreneurship, it leads to basically, just a lot of focus on technology and on entrepreneurship. So as soon as I went there, I kind of tried basically to immerse myself completely into that. And the thinking was that I have 2 years. I mean, if nothing else, was you end up going through the recruitment process at a company and sort of end up at a role at a larger company, right? But you also have these 2 years where you can experiment. And so for me, the experiment was, can we start something out of this MBA program? And so the first thing that worked out was I was able to find other like-minded people that wanted to do this.
In your batch only, or outside your batch?
In my batch only. So in fact, in the first week itself, of course, it's also a lot of new excited folks that want to do different things. But in the first week itself, we had like a few round tables where people who were interested in entrepreneurship met each other and brainstormed on ideas and things like that. And so for me, through that experience, I actually met Darwin, who is now my co-founder at Vested, and he too was looking to do something in the entrepreneurship space. He comes from a very different background. He comes from, in fact, deep technology. He's a PhD, was working at Intel designing semiconductor chips, and kind of wanted to switch completely to a new, faster moving domain, which is entrepreneurship essentially. And so both of us hit it off and decided that, okay, let's use this time and experiment with different things and see if it works out. So the entire first year, in fact, the journey to Vested was kind of a winding journey where we spent time working on a bunch of different ideas. So we picked different domains and saw that, okay, let's see if there's an opportunity here. So for me, I always joke, like, mobility was one domain which was my first love at heart. Like I spent a lot of time in the first year working on different mobility ideas, like the scooter sharing that happens today in India, in the US as well. Like, how can we improve the way people get from one place to another? Uber's done a really good job at that. I wanted to focus more on kind of last mile, like from a particular, let's say, a train station to get to your home. How can you do that in a more efficient manner and a more environmentally friendly manner as well? So I was obsessed with electric vehicles. In fact, that was pretty much what I wanted to do as my first idea. But I, in fact, came to India and spoke to a bunch of electric scooter manufacturers as well, but couldn't really take it on because it's a very operationally heavy business. And living in the US, I couldn't start that in India. Then Darwin and I, we worked on some cryptocurrency stuff, some AI stuff as well. Nothing really took off. And then the first year passed by. In the internship period, which is between the first and second year, he was at a VC. I was at a startup, and that's where, again, it was still ongoing. We were still thinking of different things, and that's where we were looking at our previous backgrounds. What is it in our earlier life that we would have faced as individuals? What problems did we face? And then that was something that struck me, which was when I was at JP Morgan, I was covering all these global companies, right? I knew their business models pretty well. I had an understanding of, which company can be successful, which one might not be. And so I tried to invest in those companies earlier from India, but couldn't do it. And it was just a painful, long, expensive process, and eventually ended dropping off. And that was something that came back. We realized that a lot of people used to try doing it through their family and friends. Like, if I was living in the US, my friend would ask me to invest on his or her behalf and then send the money back once it's done. But it was just very complicated from a tax standpoint and all of those things. So that's when we realized people have wanted to do it. They haven't had a way to do it in an easy enough manner. Can we use technology to solve it? And so that's when the journey for Vested began.
And these were like 100 HNIs you must have spoken to, right? This product would appeal to them.
No, not really. I think this product appeals to pretty much everybody who is a consumer or who is an investor in India, right? largely because of the kind of brands that are listed in the US. So everybody has at some point thought of, why can't I invest in Amazon? Yeah, or Apple. And so it doesn't necessarily need to be HNIs. HNIs have been the ones who have had access to this because kind of only if you have large sums would you be able to do this in an easy enough manner. But the goal is for us to make it accessible to everybody who would have thought of, okay, let me invest internationally. Of course, it requires a certain level of development in terms of your financial skills. Like if you've never started or if you've never thought about investing, like then you wouldn't naturally think of US investing. But if you've already built certain portfolios in India, you started investing, then naturally you would have thought of, okay, can I also invest in these companies that are available to international investors to build my wealth, right?
How did you find the solution? I mean, there are complications in this, like, there are all those restrictions of from RBI and all in terms of foreign currency and stuff like that. Tell me about the process of finding a solution so that an Indian can easily invest in an American stock.
Yeah, I think so. The solution was iterative for us. Like we, from day one, I mean, we never really worked in the brokerage space as well. So we had no idea of how a brokerage business even runs. So it was just, can we keep the consumer in mind and figure out a solution that works for them, and can we make it easy enough? That was the goal starting off. And so it was phases, right? First phase was to figure out, okay, how does one execute these trades in the US, right? Do you need to be a broker? Do you need to plug into the exchange? And so I remember while doing our internship, we met with a bunch of brokers, and so the reasons they defined were, like, if you were studying abroad, you can move money internationally, traveling, living internationally. So if you have certain bank accounts internationally, you can move money into it. Under that, they had also said that, okay, you want to make investments internationally, you can move money under this liberalized remittance scheme. And then they defined a cap saying that, okay, this is the maximum amount you can move per individual. So today it's at $2.5 lakh that an individual can move internationally. And then they have a further segregation. Actually, they have these two types of transactions. No bank was allowing capital account transactions online. So you had to physically go and submit forms. Only then would you be able to transfer money into your vested account. We improved that process by having a bunch of people who would come to your place and pick up those forms. So we'd give you pre-filled forms. You just sign it. Somebody will come and pick it up and submit to a bank branch. So that was the first leg of improvement. Second leg was, then we worked with the banks and got them to bring that online. So within their existing net banking or within the remittance platforms that these banks have, you can then load money and transfer funds to your US brokerage account. And now is the third phase where, so in fact, the second phase was actually the solution was better. You don't physically have to go, but it's still expensive. Like they charge you 1,500 rupees per transaction and a markup of around 2 to 3%. Plus you have to drop off, go to another platform, add beneficiary, all those things. So now it's the third phase, which is everything is on vested, no need to add any beneficiary. Cost is completely transparent. So the fixed fee goes away. There's zero fixed fee.
Which essentially at the back end opens an account on State Bank of Mauritius. So for him now the transaction becomes much quicker because now it's just a domestic bank to bank transaction that he's doing. And then State Bank of Mauritius does you with State Bank of Mauritius do the international transfer.
Correct. So they basically have that capability to do that and the willingness also. So they're the ones who we've worked with and now are able to do.
And currently this deposit takes 24 hours, which you are now working to make it in a couple of hours.
Correct. So when you're doing KYC, you're basically opening a US brokerage account and an India account, which will be your a wallet sort of place where you load rupees, you can keep the rupees in the wallet if you want. So you load the rupees and then whenever you want to deposit, you put in a request and the money gets deposited.
This is because there's some like a cycle of interbank settlement for foreign currency. Is it that? And then how are you going to do a shortcut here? Like how are you going to cut this down?
Yeah. So currently, if you do it before 3 p.m., there's a cutoff. So if you do it before 3 p.m., it comes in by night at like 2 a.m. So within 12 hours. If you do it after 3 p.m., then it takes then it comes next day 2 a.m. So that's something we are figuring out. We have some solution in mind. Let's see. Hopefully we can figure that out basically allow people to load money at a much faster rate.
So this was about the product journey. Tell me about the customer acquisition journey. Like, when did you launch Vested commercially? How did you acquire the first 1,000 customers? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So we launched our product full-fledged in 2019, August, around August, September 2019. So in fact, we have a 2-year anniversary that we are celebrating right now with an account opening fee waiver. So that's when we started. And what we had done until then, we had built a sort of a 1,000 people type of wait list where people who wanted to invest had signed up on the landing page that we developed. And so we launched with them and onboarded them onto the platform. And so it was primarily all B2C, right? So we were going directly to the consumer, and uh, the two kind of strategies, or I mean, not strategies essentially, the two reasons through which we were growing. One was content, and the second was word of mouth, basically existing customers telling others. So those were the two main channels for us to grow the business in the first 6 to 12 months. And then what started happening was that existing folks in the brokerage or wealth management or fintech space also started reaching out to work with us to offer this product to their customer base, right? And so then that's how,
like the financial advisors, basically.
correct, brokers, financial advisors, so there's different buckets, but yeah, these are the 3 or 4 types of customers, types of partners. And so that's the start of our kind of B2B2C channel. So now we are a mix of B2C plus B2B2C. A lot of different companies. We in fact have about 35 total partners, and we keep increasing that pool. So that's essentially the core product stays the same, but it gets distributed either through an existing company that has customers or through our B2C.
So how does this happen? Like, say, with 5paisa, 5paisa will just refer customers to you, or within 5paisa's app there'll be a option to open a vested account.
So it is a referral. The arrangement is still a referral. Like, Vested is the entity that's handling the international investments, but the experience is a couple of things. One is you can basically open or access international investments through the app, through 5paisa. And the second thing what now that we are doing is very soon customers that are our partner customers, they'll also be able to access our platform through our app. So you can use like a single sign-on using your 5paisa credentials. You can also access the Vested app, which is much faster, has a lot more things, right? Because it's not kind of an app within an app. So that's also something that we'll be doing soon, and that should help improve the experience for these partner customers.
And do they need to do KYC again, because they would have done it once for 5paisa?
They do. So because the US requirements are different, they currently have to do a separate KYC. But again, there is scope for optimizing that going forward.
So how much time did it take you to get the first 1,000 transacting users?
First 1,000? I'm not sure.
Or first 100, whatever number you remember.
Yeah, I think for us it was kind of when did we get the first $1 million deposited into vested accounts? I think that's the metric that we've been close, because that's kind of a sign of trust for us. Like, if somebody is actually putting in the money in a deposits driven business, that's very trust driven. So that's what we were monitoring. I think the first million or so we got to by Jan 2020, if I'm not wrong.
In about half a year, basically. And what is the number today, like total amount deposited?
Now it's north of 50 million.
And typically, like, what percentage of this money do people invest, and how much do they keep liquid?
So I typically on average about 10 to 15% is liquid. People wait for opportunities, and the rest is all invested.
Is it for sophisticated investors who already have clear stocks that they want to invest in, or do you also offer like a managed, like a mutual fund kind of an approach where you have a basket of stocks?
Yeah. So we do, in fact. So that was one of the other things that we, after being in the market, heard from customers and realized that's something that people want. So there's two types of customers, right? One who know what they want to buy, and either because they've been in an industry where they've seen global companies that they want to invest in, or they just naturally want to buy the brands that they're using. So or they do their research and figure out what opportunities are there. So these are the folks who for whom we give them the tools. Like we give them data, we give them charting tools, we give them real time pricing so that they can make their decisions in the best possible manner. And that's largely our audience today. But there is another audience which is growing fast, which wants to diversify internationally, which aspires to have a dollar portfolio, but doesn't know or doesn't have the time to figure out what to invest in and when. And so for them, we developed this product which we call Vest, which basically is, a pre-built portfolio, like you mentioned, which is based on different themes or different strategies, and that allows you to create your portfolio in a much simpler manner. And in fact, if you ask me, most of my portfolio is also in these Vests because it's much easier for somebody to get started and keep investing if someone else is doing the research.
How long back did you launch Vest, and how has the uptake been for that? Like, what percentage of people invest through that?
Yeah, I think it's been a year since we launched it, and today I think about 15% of our the dollar volume on the platform is invest, or our AUM you could call it, and it's been growing. I think as we spread more and more awareness of this option being available, and as also going forward, what we want to do is work with kind of existing advisors, right, who want to offer international stocks to their or ETFs to their customers. And so again, that's something that will help drive the adoption of these pre-built portfolios going forward.
What has been the funding journey for you? You know, when you launched in August 2019, had you already raised funds at that time?
We had some of the founders of successful companies invest early on, and that's something that helped. Like for example, Ashneer from BharatPay, he invested early on. He was the first check, in fact, and has been super helpful since then. We had also a few others, the founders of Razorpay, some of the others who are leaders at large companies. So those folks helped us with kind of operational and strategic expertise, whereas we had some funds or VCs from the US come in who would help us with more of just the finance that we needed to keep growing.
So how did you access the investor pool? Was it by virtue of being at Berkeley, or?
To some extent. So our first investment was pretty much through one luck and second Berkeley. So a lot of the early 200K investors were connections through Berkeley classmates or folks who we had met at Berkeley. So that's how we got started. The luck factor was that, like for example, Ashneer, he had actually signed up on our wait list that we'd put out, and we basically used to call everybody who was on the wait list, asking them why have they signed up, right? What's the reason for them to find interest in the product like this? And one of them happened to be Ashneer, and so then that's how we met him, and he was super psyched about what we were doing. So got lucky in that sense, and then post that it was just existing investors connecting us and sort of meeting new people that got us the next round.
What is the monetization for this? Because I can see on your website it says zero commission investing.
So one thing that we were very clear from the beginning was that we want to make sure that the costs for the customer don't end up being too prohibitive for this entire journey. So one of the main reasons why people have not done international investing until now was just that it was very expensive. Like you would pay 2-3% to transfer money, then the broker charges you commission, which is, let's say, anywhere between $3 to $10. So if you make 15-20 trades, you lose another 3-4%, and then bringing the money back, you lose more money. So you would end up losing like 6-7% just like that, not even without any return. So we knew that, okay, one thing which we can start off with is don't charge any commission, right? That reduces the cost. And also happened to be that a lot of brokers in the US are also going down that model, right? So now in the US, pretty much every broker is zero commission. Nobody charges commission. So we decided to latch on to that trend and use it for our customer base in India as well. So that was the first thing. Then in terms of then developing the model, we've tried to look at, okay, what are the different areas in which we can monetize and make sure that, of course, we can sustain our business. So one is now we have a premium subscription plan, which where we charge 2,500 rupees for some additional value that we give. And so that's one of our ways to monetize.
What is the additional value? for that premium plan?
So you'd get more pre-built portfolios. The fees that we charge for investing in those portfolios, we waive that off. We give you one free withdrawal as well. So those are some of the things that we give on the premium offering, and we keep adding on to that more and more going forward as well. But so that's one of the ways that we monetize. The second is now working with the banks on the FX side of things. Also, we would get a small cut from the banks because we're giving them additional business, and then going forward, there are other ways also that we can look at as we sort of get that base that starts investing in the international markets. The ways the US brokers are making money, right, without charging commission. And also these are cash accounts, so you can't keep repeatedly buying and selling also. So by virtue of just that, it becomes more from for investors. And then within investors, it's basically anybody who's already built an India portfolio, right? Anybody who's already dipped their toes into the stock market. All of those folks can look at diversifying some of their portfolio by investing in the US as well. So have a certain, and you can just look at it from a percentage allocation perspective, have a certain allocation for the international markets, let's say 20% or so, and basically get that diversification benefit.
But this would essentially be for people who want to invest and hold, like, because otherwise the cost of transaction, like the forex transactions, and like they would wipe away any gains if you're doing like a short-term investing. Like if I want to invest for a couple of months, then this would not be the right option.
Not really. So that's possible. Like the forex charges are only incurred when you deposit money and when you convert it back into rupees. But once you've deposited, you don't necessarily need to withdraw immediately whenever you're selling something. So you can basically hold. Let's say you have $1,000, you can hold it as cash, keep buying, selling whenever you want, and then over time you can withdraw that money if you want to bring it back into local currency. So yeah, I think once the money is in, then there's essentially no cost, right? You can keep buying and selling the way you want.
So what's the game plan for Vested? Like you have launched in India. Is there a plan to do a global play immediately, or is that like a slightly more distant plan? You want to first focus on India and grow that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely part of our plans in the medium term, I would say. We are a founding team that is very much global. We come from India, Indonesia, Singapore, and so we definitely want to offer this, and we see need for it across different markets as well. However, there is ample of opportunity in India first itself. It's I mean, if you ask me, it's like day zero in terms of international investing from India, and that's the one that we'll focus on for now. As a startup, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew, right? Like you spread your team too thin, nothing will happen properly. So for now, the focus is on how can we offer the most value to the Indian consumer? How can we make their journey the easiest to invest internationally? And then over time, we look at different markets as well. We already have actually sort of a presence internationally through NRIs. Like a lot of NRIs also sign up on the platform. So that's one way for us to kind of keep expanding our international presence. But primary focus continues to be on Indians.
How big do you think this market is of people who want to invest in the US? Like, you know, in terms of like a dollar value, do you have some like rough estimation?
No, I think so. For us, I mean, the way we look at it is it's creating a new category, right? It's very difficult to be able to estimate the size of a new category. It's like if Uber was trying to size their market using kind of what the black cabs market is going to be. It's just very difficult to say that is going to be the market because it's a completely tangential market that's opening up. And so for us also, it's difficult to say how the market looks like. But if you want to estimate, I mean, over the next 5 years, we see about 5 to 7 billion or so that we see being invested internationally through India. And as the process becomes easier and easier, the uptake becomes higher.
And what is your plan to go to other countries in how many years?
It's still in the works. We'll take a call in the next 6 months or so whether we want to do it or not, and which country would make the most sense. But yeah, not decided that this is the plan right now. I think first and foremost, we will continue to focus on India.
So, in your founding team, in addition to Darwin, who else joined you? Like, tell me about the team.
So we are three of us who are now co-founders. Ying is our third co-founder. Ying, she's our CTO, and yeah, she's originally from Singapore. Joined us later on, so she joined us I think 6 to 8 months down the road. Was earlier at Google,
And she was also at Berkeley, or
no. So she was at Google, and we realized that we need a CTO, somebody who plugs our gap in technology, and so then eventually we convinced her to join us.
and how big is the role of technology here? I mean, as an outsider, it seems like the role of partnerships is a lot more important than technology. Technology seems to be more of an enabler to make those partnerships seamless. But correct me if I'm wrong.
So I mean, for every startup, there are two areas where they need to succeed, right? Product and distribution. One cannot be the only thing that they do well. So uh, product is first and foremost the most important, because if the product doesn't work well, the distribution won't really help, right? So technology, while it's not, of course, deep tech and kind of no AI or ML at this point or any kind of deep technology, but there is a lot that needs to be done on the back end. It might not look like it on the front end. Like for example, now a simple thing is just to be able to even offer, let's say when the market in the US is open, we want to offer real time prices, right? You want that ticker to keep moving at every point. That in itself is a big infrastructure build to handle so much volume at scale, right? So uh, it's definitely something that requires significant development, and we want to keep innovating. Like for example, these pre-built portfolios, we built that entire technology in house, so we can create those portfolios now and spin them off very quickly. We've created our own tax module, so there we had to develop our own product to be able to convert currency into rupees as per the income tax laws, spin out that report every time. And then on the FX side of things, right, with Vested Direct now, we had to plug into a bank's APIs, be able to open up accounts, then do the processing in the US. So there are different modules actually, and quite a bit that has gone into building what we've done until now, and we keep doing more and more. Like there are a lot of different products that we are going to launch in the future. And but however, this in itself doesn't work. You need distribution as well, and so then again, that's on the partnership side. That's on the B2C side. How can we keep putting out content that helps the customer to then bring them onto Vested? So that's the other leg of things.
You pay taxes to both US government and Indian government?
Yeah, so there's two incomes that you could make when investing, right? There's capital gains and there's dividends that you could make. So in terms of capital gains, you don't need to pay any tax to the US authorities. The When you sign up, we basically tell them automatically on the back end that this is a non-resident, so no tax in the US is need to be paid. In India, the long-term threshold if you're investing in like stocks is 24 months, ETFs is 36 months, and the rate is 20% with indexation. And and so what we do, so these taxes they're actually in dollars, right? When you're buying and selling, but what we do is we convert them into rupees and give a easy report that somebody can use to basically file their taxes in an easy manner. Yeah, and and then on the dividend side of things, there is like a 25% withholding. So if you're supposed to get $1 of dividend, you'll get 75 cents. You can take credit for it in India if you want, but unless it's a sizable amount, like I would say it's fine just having it like that. If you do want to take credit, we again give all the information that's needed for you to be able to get that credit from the government.
Where are you based out of? Like, are you in the US or are you in India? Like, where is the team based out of?
So primarily the entire team is in India. I'm also in India, but keep shuffling back and forth between the US and India. We've been remote first from the beginning, so we knew that we wanted to be a global business, wanted to basically have presence across multiple markets, and so we've always been. There's no one area where everybody collects, so we keep meeting as a team frequently, but everybody else, I mean, everybody is pretty much remote and working from different parts of India and even in the US.
And like your tech team and all, they're like again all over the world, or?
So Ying, who's the leader, is in the US. The rest of the team is in India. There's some folks in Canada as well.
What's your headcount now?
We are almost 50.
Pretty sizable team. So Your current fundraise, how long will it last you for?
I think we are comfortable right now. We'll see. I mean, if we find some good investors, we might even raise earlier than needed. But for now, we should be fine.
So, like you started this out while pursuing your MBA. What happened to that? Did you?
Yeah. We finished it. Where there was a moment in time where we were contemplating whether we should drop out or not. But then we ended up going ahead and completing the entire program. And the entire second year, we kind of leveraged all the classes that we had, all the projects that we had to work towards vested. So that's how we made both of those work. And then once we started working on it full time once we graduated.
This was The Spotlight, presented by The Podium. To listen to more such interesting conversations, log on to thepodium.in.